Morning, afternoon, wherever you are in the world, probably closer to afternoon and evening. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Okay, we are good. Let me just get slightly organized here with our streaming to Facebook and YouTube. I nearly forgot where we stream to, but okay, hang tight. What do I need to do now? It has been so long since I've done this. I don't remember how to do it. And now it wants me to log in. Oh my goodness. Okay, we are actually, I think, streaming. We are streaming, but I have not got the Facebook or YouTube up, so I can't see any comments. So we were just gonna go with the flow today. How have you all been? It has been a month since we have been together. Seems like forever, and it also seems like just yesterday. It's kind of one of those really weird time warp situations happening here. I see Jane in England. Yay, Jane. Hi there. Jane was at the retreat in Devon and we had a fun time. It was so beautiful to see everybody and meet everybody and do a whole bunch of stitching. We went up on one of the tours and had ice cream. If you go to England and you go to Cornwall, you have to have Cornish ice cream smothered in clotted cream. It is just one of the best things ever. And I remember that from when I was a youngster. We used to go camping in Devon and Cornwall. Devon and Cornwall are actually right next to each other. Did we have Cornish ice cream? Yeah, I think it was Cornish ice cream. But it's just yummy. One of the best things. And definitely a really cool treat. So we are going to jump right into questions, and Jane actually has one. So, Jane, I am coming to you, asking you to unmute,
Yeah,
and let me spotlight you and spotlight me. There we go. Hello, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. And how are you? Back
I
from your
can't
travel?
hear you. Hang tight. That may well be because I discovered the other day. Okay, let's try again.
I'm fine, thank you. Can you hear me now?
I still can't hear you. Hold on a minute. That was the microphone. No, I want the microphone to be over there. And speakers. Okay. Third time lucky.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Hello. Finally, yes.
Hi. Good.
I have this brilliant thing going where I don't know if you know, I've got my Zoom room figured out so that I have a nice background. I'm actually in the room upstairs, directly above my desk, and I'm feeling kind of organized. I have a charger for my laptop up here and one downstairs. So the only thing that has to move is the laptop. And I
Ah,
keep forgetting that for because I'm attaching to a different monitor, the speakers go kind of wonky. So
tech's brilliant, isn't it?
I know I just have to remember to set everything to the right thing before I try
Yeah,
listening to somebody. So we're good now. How
cool.
are you?
I'm very well, thank you. And how are you?
I'm fabulous, thank you.
You
Yeah,
managed to get back home okay after all your travels.
I did. I went, okay, so everybody, so let's see, how did it work? I flew into Heathrow, London Heathrow, and I spent a couple of nights with my aunt in Maidenhead, which is about 20 minutes on the train west of London. And
Yeah.
then I drove down to Devon, which was, I think it was about 210 miles. It took me all day. because I was so jet lagged. I was driving for about 45 minutes and I was like, I have to stop and
You
walk
stop.
around and wake up here. Yeah, I think I stopped 4 times on the way over. And then we
Right.
had a fabulous week in Devon. And then on the Saturday after, I drove up to Cumbria to visit
Mm.
with my nephew and his two little critters, my niece and nephew. So I had fun with that. And then driving back down from Cumbria to Maidenhead, I got a 3 hour stint on the M40 at the junction between Knutsford Services and whatever the next junction, I
Mm.
think junction 10. There'd been an accident. So I traveled 5 whole miles in 3 hours.
Oh gosh.
I haven't had English motorway traffic jam in a very long time, and I had forgotten it existed. But
Yeah.
apparently, that's a well-known thing that happens on the M40 driving
Happens
south.
on all our
And
motorways.
yeah, yeah, I was like, okay, what are we going to do now? I've run out of downloaded YouTube podcasts to
Yeah.
listen to.
Come up with another design.
I know. We know what I thought was really funny. We literally were parked on the motorway
Yeah.
and it was the men who were getting antsy.
Yes.
And it started out with one man got out of his car and went and hid behind the bushes and came back looking fairly well relieved. And once he'd started it, there was a
Yeah.
dozen men
Snowball.
jumping out of their cars and going and hiding behind the bushes. I'm like, you guys are so lucky we have a whole lot
Have
here.
bushes.
Yeah. So I thought that was kind of funny, but it all turned out well. And then
Okay.
let's see, then what happened? So yeah, I spent a couple of days with my aunt. We had a couple of, well, we had one day out actually. We went to Cliveden,
Okay.
which is, I don't know, it was about 15 minutes away from where my aunt lives.
Yeah.
And that I thought was really interesting. It's a gorgeous National Trust property, but
Mm.
it's where Nancy Astor,
That's right.
the first woman MP in England who just happened to be American.
Yes.
And it was like, how did an American woman happen to become the first British MP? I thought that was really interesting. Now, I knew all about Nancy Astor from years and years ago. There was a really cool BBC documentary series on her,
Yeah. Yeah.
but that was good and just beautiful, beautiful place. So,
It was a nice time of year as well. Well, fall, autumn, fall, with all the colours as well there.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. And I got lost in the maze.
Ah.
Yeah. It
You didn't
was
take
me
any
all by
bread.
myself. My aunt decided she was going to wait for me at the entrance, so I just went and I thought it can't be that hard, and I actually started panicking. I got a little bit in, and I'm like, I don't like this.
Yeah.
You can't see over the
It's
top
right.
of the head, and I was like, I feel like I'm going around in circles, and I hadn't made it into the center, so I'm like, okay, I have to get out of here. So in my efforting to get out, I actually landed in the center of the maze.
Oh.
I'm
Oh,
like, okay,
not good.
no, not good. And I, all told, I think I was only in there for about 15 minutes. It felt like a lifetime
Yeah, I
trying
bet.
to get out. But anyway, okay, on to the good stuff.
Yeah.
Um, I actually brought this. It's
Ah,
still sitting, waiting to have the big insert. So this is the Petal Power Flower Garden
yeah.
uh, pillow. Gave me a heart attack this morning. So I'm looking at I'm looking for the instructions in my Dropbox, and I'm like, they're not there. I know we did this. Well, who's playing a trick on me? Thank goodness for the ability to search on Windows
Yeah.
File Explorer, whatever it's called. I'm like, okay, tell me flower garden. It's here somewhere. I know it's here. I don't know what the heck happened, but somehow or other, the entire folder for the Petal Power Flower Garden managed to get itself into Yellow Submarine. I'm like,
Bit
what
peculiar.
the heck happened?
Oh well.
I'm like, am I in some kind of a time warp when I never made Petal Power Flower Garden? I'm like, I got the quilt here, I have to.
Yes,
And
the evidence.
I've still lost. So for the quilt that goes with the pillow, it's got the little the little flowers are actually stitched on little wooden frames, and
Oh, okay.
they're velcroed onto the quilt, and four of them have gone missing.
Ah,
As in,
okay.
I am 99% sure they are not in this house. And I know I sent an email out. If anybody has any good finding techniques, I have no clue where they are. They've vanished. So, or got lost in the move. Or
Mm.
there's like part of me that thinks I'd lend them to somebody, and I can't remember who.
Ah, okay, yeah.
So I'm just putting it out into the universe. If you have these four little framed flowers, I want them back. Else I'm gonna have to make some more. Anyway, okay. So we have I'm gonna share my screen because I have the instructions sitting right here in front of me. Can you see?
Yeah,
See this? Okay, cool. So cutting instructions.
yeah,
We've got the linen, and this is the white background, so it's the main background for the pillow,
yeah.
and piping for the binding. It's
Yeah.
um piping for the binding. So you're saying, where is the piping utilized? It's for making a no hands pipe binding.
Okay,
And I suspect that when we offered this originally, it would have come with the instructions for the no hands pipe binding.
right.
So when you get to the very end and it says something along the lines of bind it,
Yeah,
that's where you're going to be using it.
okay,
Okay.
okay.
So then the next bit, let's see, you said you spot sashing, which is cut right here. So sashing is in the blossom
Yeah,
here. And that sashing, let me stop sharing right now, is so I'm sitting in front of the window and I'm actually realizing that this is not great in terms of light, but we've got the piece of sashing, one of them here,
okay, yeah.
that, and then the other of them is down here. So
Got it.
you're going to do all of the applique and quilting on the main pillow background.
Yeah,
And then you're going to trim it to size. Then you're going to quilt the little border up at the top.
yeah.
And I can't remember if you quilt that in one piece and then cut it in half. Um, did not get that far to having a look.
No, I
That
think
that's just from looking at the way that the cutting instructions. Let me see. Yes, I think you're going to quilt the border. You're going to cut it in one piece,
yeah,
quilt it, and then cut it in half. So a piece for the top and a piece for the bottom.
okay, yeah.
And then we're using the sashing to join that to that.
Right. Okay, got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So um let me know how you get on with the rest of it, because I still have it in mind that you said that about looking at some of the instructions and helping to make them a bit more
Yes.
readable.
That's what I thought. I thought with the collections I've bought from you, I thought that looked to me the easiest for me to start with. And then I was trying to do what you told me to do, read all the instructions. So I read it all. I thought, I'm lost already. So I was having
So
to work
some
backwards with some of it. So if you see what I mean, from I was imagining putting it together, so then I knew what I had to cut. I know that sounds really weird, but that's the only way I could work it out. So, and then funnily enough, once I'd done that, then your instructions on first reading made sense. But to start with, it didn't, some of the instructions didn't actually make sense to me until I'd worked backwards.
Okay, that's good to know. It's kind of interesting. So I was talking with my business coach the other day, and she actually, I don't, anybody who knows about Chat GPT, let me know. So Chat GPT is one of the AI things out there. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. She actually suggested, because I'm looking for how can I create projects more easily with the instructions writing themselves, and that we have so many different projects and so many sets of instructions, and over the last, I want to say 4 years since Sunshine Cove, we've really kind of streamlined it quite a bit. And if you look from one document or one set of instructions to the next set of instructions, they're actually fairly similar in that we've got them in the same kind of a layout so that we can do more copying and pasting. She actually suggested putting the instructions through Chat GPT and seeing what it could come up with in terms of streamlining them and making them a bit easier to follow for everybody.
That sounds like a good idea. The reason why I'm sort of slightly reticent is, of course, it's machine based, and we're people, and English or the language is ambiguous. And I think
Yes.
that's really the problem. And it wasn't, I mean, for example, I finally got my head around the way you lay, I don't think it's you personally, but the way things are laid out. And then I can then follow that where you say, this is just an off the cuff example. You cut, I don't know, some fabric 21 inches by 65 inches. And then there's a little indent where you then say cut 2 pieces certain lengths. And I've then finally realized that what you'd said in the first line was actually the entire piece of fabric, and the 2 indents of other fabric lengths you're cutting out from that fabric length.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
But on first reading of your instructions, that wasn't obvious to me.
So how do I make it more obvious?
Well, it's almost as if you need, in say your design folder, your first level document explains the layout of your design documents.
Okay.
You almost want an introduction to say, I say cut XYZ lengths, but out of those XYZ lengths, you're then doing A, B, C, D, E, F. You see what I mean? There's sort of like subsections or subcuttings, so, something like that. So some sort of description of how your documents are laid out, which would then be applicable to all your designs. And then possibly you wouldn't have the problem. I don't know. It's an idea.
Yeah, you know, one of the things that I struggle with every single time is, I've done this so many times, it's ridiculous. And I also know that there is a very large number of people in our community who have also stitched out dozens of my designs, and so they know exactly what to do.
Yeah.
It's somebody who's coming fresh who's like, what the heck is this all about?
Exactly. And that's where, you know, I was, forgive me for saying this, a couple of weeks ago, like a bunny in headlights. I'm like thinking, you know, I had to concentrate so hard for the entire week. But no, it was brilliant because obviously I've had time to think about it and process everything, and I think it's all fantastic. But for me and other new people, I would have found it more useful if there was a top level document, if you like, that signposts me to what you're actually doing within every single design, because it is all very prescriptive. I mean, I can see how your methods for every single design would be very, very similar and would be easy. But you just needed a top level document to direct signpost somebody, if you see what I mean.
Okay. Yeah. The interesting thing, what I have noticed is the embroidery part of any project is not a problem.
No, it's a putting it
Problem
together.
comes in the assembly,
Mm.
the cutting out in the first place, and then the assembly of it, which is nothing to do with embroidery. It's more of the actual making the quilt part.
Yeah, and probably and the introductory bits as well. The cutting out of the fabrics and for example, you say rest of width or width, say width of fabric,
Remaining width
WOF,
of
and
fabric
yeah, I
is
mean
one
they're
that's
all terms you guys might be used to using those type of terms, but we certainly weren't. I don't,
okay.
you know. And yeah, I've just been looking at some of the chats. Yeah, there's Facebook and there's this, that, and the other. But when you're new to this, you wouldn't just jump in on Facebook and ask a question. I would now, but certainly 2 weeks ago, I wouldn't. Thinking, oh my God, this is a foreign language.
So how then, and this is for everybody, how do we get, because that's the whole point of the Facebook group and that's the point of these Zooms. It's like I'm here, right? For a whole hour, twice a month, and people are getting frustrated with stuff, but they're not coming. And everybody gets an email reminder to say, hey, this is available to you. Have you got a question? And you can ask a question even if you can't actually make it here and then watch it later. Because sometimes it's a whole lot easier
Mm.
to describe how to do something like talking face to face, and also when I can show the instructions on the screen and kind of walk through them rather than trying to figure it out in an email. So it's like how to not necessarily give people confidence, although I suspect that is part of it, to just say, hey, I need some help right up front.
I mean, it can be, I mean, fortunately, I was going to say, I've now met you. I know how you work. Well, I think I know how you work. So, and I'm brave enough to do this now. A couple of weeks ago, I don't think I would, but I expect there are still some people that might be new to all this and would actually still find coming on Zoom or even going to Facebook and asking a question with again, because language is so ambiguous. And at the end of the day, yes, okay, you're in the States and we're over here in England, or I'm over here in England. But there can still be a language barrier and people can get the wrong end of the stick. And I think that's an awful lot to do with it as well, is that people are just embarrassed and shy and don't want to put themselves out there. Look, I don't know what this is, or I don't know what that is. I mean, I'd assumed to start with when I read your instructions for the piping that, hang on a minute, I think you're using the term piping for binding, because I knew that, yeah, American can be different, or the language can be different, whatever. And then I thought, hang on a minute. I then looked at the 3D mini quilts and I thought, no, I bet excuse my term, it's that flappy bit. Between the quilt and the binding, and I thought that's what it is. It's the same size and everything. So it is piping, but it wasn't just on reading. It wasn't obvious to me, and I'd assumed there's some inconsistency again, which there wasn't, but that was my assumption because it didn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
But it
What,
does now.
I typically recommend read everything first, kind of
And
just to
I
get a
did.
bit of an overview. But then if you literally go right back to page 1 and just do what it says on page 1, almost without thinking about what's next. And once
Yes.
you've done that, then do what it says on page 2. Again, don't think about what comes next. Just do that. Because once you've done that, once you've maybe got that piece of fabric and you're looking at it, you're like, oh, well, now, okay, that makes
Yeah.
sense. The other thing is remembering to label everything, label everything you've cut.
Oh, yes.
That makes a good thing. So let me see what everybody has to say here. Marilyn is coming to be out the quilt on the wall, and I should move that one. Okay, you can't actually see it. There is a sideboard behind me, and the quilt, that one, is centered perfectly over the sideboard. I do get it. I don't know if you can see the corner of the room is like right there. It's kind of a funky it's a whole it's a I haven't gotten um the hang of this yet, but we're kind of a funky. If I move that there, it's actually going to be going around the corner of the wall. But anyway, I'll figure something out. Okay. LR is asking about Brother Design 11 and playing with the tangles on there. I'll maybe chat a bit about that in a minute. Teresa said, okay, so lots of patterns use the term subcut, which kind of is going back into the cutting instructions. Let me just share that with you one more time, because I want to just have another quick look at here on the cutting instructions. Because that's like literally cut one piece, cut one piece. These are all, cut that piece, then cut that piece, then cut that piece. The subcutting thing, Jane, I think is more in the or you actually know what, it's probably in the
No, if you go back to the back to that page of the cutting instructions there, you see the in the cut one piece 21 inches by 61 inches in bold, then you're
okay, got
subcutting
it.
the other two pieces. It took me ages to work that one out. Well, not
Okay.
ages, but I had to work it out, if you see what I mean. It wasn't easy to immediately understand that's what I was doing.
Okay. Yeah, that because normally I would indent
Yeah.
here and here so
And I
that
think that's how I worked it out by reading some of your other instructions. I thought, oh, actually, that is the subcutting, if you like. And it's just things like that where things are inconsistent between designs. It for me, because I'm new to this, it takes me a long while to get my head around what you're actually meaning. I could probably pick up other designs now and know immediately if I see an indent or if I see something like that, then I know. But to start
okay.
with, I didn't.
Yeah. This this is coming from the place where it's a lot easier to best press a smaller piece of fabric than it is the entire thing.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
So, okay. This is all good to put in here so that we can improve stuff. There's a part of me that would love to go back, way back to everything that we created in 2009 when I first got going and rewrite those instructions, knowing now what I knew then. And then I'm like, would it really make a difference?
No, I mean, you're going through what everybody goes through in your position. I'm sure so many designers would like to revisit stuff they did 20 odd years ago and improve it. But really, you've moved on.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
there's yeah. It always helps when somebody is actually willing, as you are today, to come and say, maybe if you did this, it might work better. I'm all up for that.
Well, it's just to try and bear it in mind for your next biggest and greatest design, to try and reach more people, really.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate you. Let me just see. Judy says, we have a great fairy who will answer questions as well. You could always you can always send an email and Rhea will do her best. Except for this last 3 weeks when I've not been here, actually Marilyn has been the support behind the email fairy for quilting and embroidery questions, because Rhea has absolutely zero experience in quilting and machine embroidery. She has never, and she's probably listening to this right now because she'll be splitting the Zoom call up to pop the segments onto YouTube and what have you. Rhea herself doesn't have any experience making quilts, but she is definitely learning. And that whilst I was in Europe, Marilyn very graciously agreed to be on the end of emails and texts for help with, figuring out stuff. And Rhea is she is learning every time, and she also will go back and look at different other responses for the similar sort of questions. So there is always usually me on the end of I check all of Rhea's answers before we actually send the emails out, but yeah, email is always a great thing. Kim says, she said, I think it's important to understand Sarah's Facebook group is a very positive and friendly place. We don't place judgment on anyone, and there are several willing to help. That is absolutely true. To a certain extent, you don't need me to answer questions. If you jump into the Facebook group, there are lots of people who have stitched out lots of our designs, and we have such an amazing group of people in our community, just such an amazing group of people. Teresa, thank you very much for this, Teresa. She's working on Jazzylicious, which is an older design. Yeah, that Jazzylicious, I think, was 2011. And she says, I had zero problems with the instructions. Thank you, Teresa. That is very kind of you to say that. Yeah, Jazzylicious was a long time ago. Jazzylicious was my first attempt to circular quilt. It's like, I don't want to be square anymore. Anyway, thank you, Jane, for popping on today. And it is really good to see you. And jump in the Facebook group if you have any more questions, and always come back here.
Thank you.
Okay?
Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Okay. Let's see. Ruth. I'm just seeing Judy is saying, Joe, you are so funny. And now I'm just back seeing there's Joe is making her Joe comments in the chat here. So, okay, let's see. Ruth, coming to you.
Hi, Sarah.
Hello, how are you?
Doing good. I'm still on vacation, though.
Traveling? You are still on vacation?
Yeah, I'm in the North Lake Tahoe area today.
Oh my gosh. I want to go there one day.
It's a beautiful area.
It's beautiful.
It is.
Well, I'm glad you're here today. And so, your question, will we be organizing the Big Christmas Stocking charity project this year?
I know you just got back from your 3-week trip, but I know we started so late last year. It was kind of a scramble.
I know. I've been thinking about this literally all year. It's just been crazy. And the answer is probably no.
Okay.
There's unless anybody has any other ideas. This year has just been, I don't know, it's just been a really crazy year. This last 3 weeks and traveling being, well, one of what the English part of this being to some extent totally unexpected and strange. But so last year we made the stockings for Phoenix Children's Hospital. The previous year we had made the big stockings for Foster Arizona and their young adult housing program. Phoenix Children's Hospital actually came back to me earlier this year and said we're no longer accepting handmade gifts again. It's like they've been on and off and on and off since COVID, and they've kind of come down with a clear no handmade gifts anymore, which kind of puts paid for the Christmas Stocking Project supporting Phoenix Children's Hospital. Having moved, there's actually all kinds of stuff that potentially could happen.
It was the young adult housing project one that originally started it, and that was the one I was actually asking about, because I know that they want the large stockings.
Yeah, they want the large stockings.
Not necessarily.
Yeah, they want the large stockings, and they have a specific number.
Right.
Which was 26 last year. So it's entirely possible if enough people say, yes, I want to make a stocking or two, we absolutely could do that. I haven't heard from them. I can't remember.
But they contacted you late last year.
Yeah, they contacted me late last year. So it's possibly a really good idea to for me to reach out to them and open it up for a sign up. So if you want to make a stocking, I think we've got plenty of people that would gladly make one stocking that we could send along to them. What Marilyn says, they've started a project for their foster kids in Pulaski County, Arkansas. 230 stockings needed, and they used the smaller stocking pattern and enlarged it to about 13 by 8. Not embroidering because they had so many to do, but almost finished stitching them. And now they need to find things to put in them. I'd like to know what was on the card that was included. Nadine made those little cards that we put in the stockings, and I can't actually remember, but I will let you, Marilyn, what they all said. It was really simple. I can't remember, but we have an interest. So there's an interesting development, if you like, in terms of supporting the foster community here in Tucson, because the Young Adult Housing Project is back in Phoenix. Heather, literally on Monday, as in 4 days ago, started working for DCS here in Tucson as a social worker. She has had a giant change of heart in terms of what she wants to do with her future, and medical school, which has been on her radar since she was 14 years of age, gave her a very good, clear, no, I don't want to do this. And she's actually been in Phoenix all week in her initial training for her new job. And Tony, Heather's foster kid, has actually been staying here with me, which has been fun. I've been driving a kid to school every day and picking him up again, which was like, I thought I was done with doing that. But yeah, that's been kind of fun. And I've never had a teenage boy with me before. So that's also been fun and interesting. And he has such a sense of humor. There's been a couple of things that I've said and he has just started laughing hysterically. He thinks it's so funny. So anyway, Heather and I have kind of sort of had some conversations about how we might be able to support different areas of the foster children community here in Tucson in terms of stockings or making the hearts, the awakened hearts for them, which is more of an all year round gift that we can give to these kids, who I think it's just a little gesture that says, hey, there's someone out here who loves you, even though you might be going through a horrendous time right now, you know? So
is it mostly boys though in the foster program there? Because I know in the young adult housing it was, and so
yeah, I think all kinds. I think boys and girls. Yeah.
because I don't think some of the boys would be as appreciative of the hearts. Some will, but some won't.
Yeah. Yeah. It's there's definitely lots more kind of investigating to do. But I think I personally would almost like to forget about Christmas, because it's like, you know, Christmas is one day a year. What about the other 360 some days?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and when the kids are getting picked up from, you know, whatever happened to them, and I don't know. There's lots more discussions that could be had on how we can best support. I also had a really interesting conversation. So I decided, when I was unpacking all of my fabric, that I just got so much bits and pieces of fabric that I honestly cannot see myself doing anything with. So I kind of took out the pieces that I'm like, yes, okay, so this is some of my go-tos. And the rest of it, I was given a contact at Tucson Quilters Guild, and this lovely lady came over and picked up 4 big boxes of fabric that she took to put into the Tucson Quilters Guild stash, as it were, that they use for all kinds of community projects. And I'm going to be getting together with her and another lady who do a lot of the community outreach for Tucson Quilters Guild, and I know they support a lot of different places. I think there's a Ronald McDonald House that they support, and I don't remember the names, but there's like various different groups that they support throughout the year. So I was planning on having a conversation with them to say, how can Meaning of Life Designs community jump in and help join in with that effort? So there'll be more news there, but let's say that Marilyn says we're trying to get a count of age, gender groups, so the teenage boys don't get cute hair bows. Yes, absolutely. Okay, so if we do Big Christmas Stockings again, then I'm going to say I think we'll use the existing designs, which you have had a huge part in actually creating those designs. So thank you. They are much
Oh,
loved.
I enjoy doing it. It's a lot of fun.
Did you want to do a new one for this year?
I actually have my daughter maybe doing a design for me, but
Well, okay, let's go with it. If you get in a new design, let's go with one new design for this year. And I'll put a message out to people with a sign-up sheet, and I'll call the Young Adult Housing Project folks and say, hey, do you still want stockings this year? And even if they say no and people have made some stockings, then we'll figure out something to do with them. There will definitely be kids that we can find who would greatly love to have a Christmas stocking.
my guess is they would say yes, because there was a small number of stockings. It's not a huge number. And also it's something special for their kids, which it sounds like they cycle through a new set every single year. So it's not the same kids they're getting, you know, big stockings every year. Different kids.
I think there was one kid who was there the second year.
Yeah.
So who would have gotten 2 stockings, one from each year.
Yeah, but he would have gotten different ones.
Yes.
It would have been different
yes, because they were very different from the first year to the second year.
Yeah.
And you know, every single stocking that came in was unique.
It was. It was. Everybody did such a great job last year. That's why I was asking. because I know it's something that you got asked late last year, and you didn't want to say no to them. So I figured
Yeah.
I'd put it out there and ask a little earlier, but I knew you were traveling in September, so you told us September's gone. Don't even think about it.
Yeah, September's gone. We're in the last quarter of the year. Can you believe? I looked at the calendar. I'm like, really, seriously, it can't be October already. And I know we just did September and October follows on, but it, one of the other things that's been kind of bizarre, traveling in England, where it's very much into fall, although I don't know that they've had a summer to fall or summer to autumn transition, but it was so wet and cold. And then with the week in Sweden, where my sister was actually saying they are getting it's hot in Sweden, all things being relative. It's much hotter in Sweden than it normally would be in the last week of September. And I was fully expecting, having been gone for 3 weeks, that it would have been cooler here. And it is just as hot, if not just a little tiny bit hotter than it was when I left. I'm like, what the heck? This is crazy.
Yeah, we've had beautiful weather for October for traveling in the area that I'm in. Usually we get a lot colder, a little bit wetter once in a while, but it's been beautiful. It's been sunny in the 80s. And it's like people are saying this is amazing weather for this time of year in this area.
Yeah, well, we've
So,
been sunny at 100. And
yeah, when I go
we
back
could,
home tomorrow, I think it's supposed to be in 90s. And that's the
yeah, I
San
think,
Francisco Bay Area, and it's
oh
rarely
my
in the
goodness.
90s in October. So
Wow.
unusual, very unusual.
Yeah, very
Yeah.
unusual all around, I think. Kim is saying, how about we do something for a women's shelter or battered women's shelter? That, yes, Kim, that would also be a fantastic idea, something that we could potentially do. So lots of different ideas. What would be fantastic is to find somebody who's willing to coordinate it. One of the other things that's been on my mind is that the last 2 years I've had the National Honor Society kids coming over, and they've been stitching up a bunch of stockings, and they're in Gilbert. Actually, all of the kids who were coming over have subsequently graduated. They graduated with Jasmine in May. And I currently don't have any contact within the high schools around here. So yeah, that's been another, what do I need to do about that? I'm kind of thinking, Tony is downstairs playing with his PlayStation, is like, I wonder. Here's a kid who may well be roped into doing something for figuring out the Christmas stockings, or at least, managing them and photographing them and what have you when they come in. So let's say yes, we would love another Ruth design for a new stocking this year. And I will send an email out to, it was originally the Big Christmas Stocking Project for people who have gone through the digitizing and design masterclass. So I'm going to put it out to those folks first with a sign-up sheet. And if we don't get enough sign-ups from that, we'll go out to the greater community.
Okay, yeah, we got a lot of volunteers the last couple of years through those two groups, the digitizing and design, and then the plus classes.
Yes, and there's more people now who have been through it as well this year. So yeah, okay. Sometimes, if you want to ask me a question, it helped me to do it. It helps if somebody comes and asks a question on a Zoom call, because it's like, okay, I have to actually make up my mind right now. So thank you for coming up with this question. Yes, we will make some stockings for the young adults housing program, and we would love to have a new Ruth design for them.
Yeah, it's another snowman design.
Okay, you know what? The snowman designs are much loved. They are much
They're
loved.
fun. They're fun. I really
They
enjoy
are
doing them too.
definitely fun. So, okay.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. You take care.
I'll be sending you an email tomorrow.
All right, will do.
My Tangle Club Benina 8 lady, Angel, actually, yeah, we are ready.
All right, I'll be looking for it.
Okay. Thank
Okay,
you.
bye.
Bye.
Thanks.
Okay, let's see. Okay. Any other questions before we say goodbye here? Let's see. Can I remember how to change back into gallery view? It seems like such a long time since I've been on Zoom. Okay, one question actually that I was going to come back to about the Brother Design P11 and playing with the tangles on there. I have not yet figured out how to create the motifs in the P design, the Brother software. Vicky, I see you here. And now that I'm back and here to stay, I'd love to have a conversation with you about the Embrilliance. Is that or Floriani? Yeah, the Floriani. So that we can get that up and running. One of the things on my to-do list is go find somebody who's fluent in this Brother PE design. They have their motifs set up differently, and I'm kind of wondering how we can actually make that work for the Tangle Club. So that is still on my to-do list. So if anybody knows an expert PE design person, please let me know. We got some really fun designs coming out, new motifs coming out on Tuesday next week for MEL's Tangle Club. And I'm excited about that. I am blown away with the different ways that you guys have been coming up with your ideas. So the challenge for September's Tangle Club was to create a heart design. And there have been some really beautiful hearts coming out just using the tangles from September. So keep up the good work, everybody. Okay, let's see. We are a little bit early here for 1 o'clock, but if nobody has any questions, one more thing before I forget. You should have received an email earlier in the week about Life Beyond Trauma. It's a virtual summit series which my good friend Danielle Bird is putting together. She's collected together a whole bunch of experts in the field of trauma. And one of the things that I love is receiving emails from those of you who have stitched up Meaning of Life Designs project and said, working on this project really helped me get through whatever. Whether, we've had people who have worked through breast cancer and getting into their sewing room and doing some stitching has helped them get through that. We've had people going through sick spouses, taking care of a sick spouse who has subsequently passed away, and being able to get into the sewing room has really helped with the grief and coming out of that. We've had people with brain trauma working on Meaning of Life Designs projects, and it's helped with that. So I know that everybody experiences trauma somehow or other. Anyhow, long story short, Danielle and I had a conversation, and I wound up being part of her summit. And so in the email I sent out a couple of days ago, you can register for Life Beyond Trauma. If you have had trauma and you're looking for some ways to get through it, or if you have somebody in your family or a friend, pass the email on to them. There's some great conversations going to happen. They're going to be released next week, I think Monday through Friday. And I'm not altogether sure. I think the recordings are going to be released each day. There's multiple speakers each day. There's no fixed time to them, so you can watch them whenever it works for you. So if you want to sign up for that, you should have received a link earlier in the week, and I will include a link for that in tomorrow's email as well. So there's lots of good stuff there, and if you're like, well, what the heck's this got to do with quilting machine embroidery? Nothing at all, other than we all experience trauma at various stages, and how making all of this stuff, doing the creative pursuits, can actually help you heal from trauma. Okay, that's enough about that. Vicky, thank you. I got your number and your email, and let's make a time to get together and we'll figure out the Floriani software and the MEL's Tangle Club, so that we've got a bit more ease there. Okay, so let's see. We will be back here in the Meaning of Life Designs Zoom room for MEL's get together in 2 weeks. And we will be back next Wednesday for MEL's Tangle Club. You'll get the designs on Tuesday, which is October 8th. And first, let's see, second Wednesday is actually the very next day. So I will see you if you're in MEL's Tangle Club next Wednesday, September 9th, noon Pacific time. And I'm going to have a huge amount of fun looking over everybody's September challenges this weekend and coming up with a winner for September. So go forth and have a splendid weekend. Get some sunshine if there is some in your neighborhood, and do some stitching, and go give somebody a